Over the last couple of years, TikTok has absolutely exploded as a social network. And what's even more important, it has become a platform that has driven a lot of music success. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the musician's guide to TikTok.
You're listening
to the CD Baby
CD
Baby
DIY
Musician
Welcome to episode number 316 of the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast. My name is Kevin Bruner, and joining me is Chris Robley. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm good, although I think you should know I'm no longer going by the name Chris. I'm now the artist Alexander Gucci Poochie.
Yes, we got to see if it's still available, Chris. I'm assuming you did that work. Chris is referring to the hilarious scam email that we read in the previous episode. If you have not heard that, it's worth checking out. It's in the back half of the show where we read those. And we're still accepting scam emails. So if you want to send those in, we have one later in today's show.
It sounds like you're inviting people to scam us. We're accepting scam you.
But yeah, this is going to be a good episode. We're going to be talking about the musician's guide to TikTok. I was looking back in the archives of our podcast, Chris, and I know we talked about TikTok before. It was February 2020. We did TikTok 101. And wow, so much changed since then. Little did we know.
I have very, very vivid memories of being in New Orleans with you at Folk Alliance in, I think, January of 2020.
Yes, indeed. That was
planning to announce CD Baby's new partnership with TikTok. We were just starting to distribute music there. You and I were just sort of learning about the platform because prior to that, it had been Musical.ly. And then suddenly something happened in the months following that changed the world forever. But everyone was stuck at home with TikTok. They spent their COVID years with TikTok.
Yeah, and TikTok really exploded over the next couple years, leading into where we're at today, and has become a powerful engine for music promotion. And so we're going to talk about that today. Before we get into that, Chris, I was talking to several artists, and whenever I meet somebody that listens to the podcast, it's always this thing where like, oh, I feel like I know you because I mentioned our listener Dan sits outside and smokes a cigar while listening to the podcast. Or I was talking to another artist, Melody. She's saying, I listen to you guys at the gym. And so I feel like we should throw in like motivational things every once in a while, like keep going. 20 push-ups, that's all you got. Just randomly throughout the podcast, because I know a lot of people listen to us while we work out.
Just a voice that comes in, no pain, no gain.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, we're glad you're listening. And I want to make sure that, hey, if you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do. We get a lot of listeners on YouTube. So if you're following us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. Click that notification button. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, whether it's on Apple or Spotify or a podcast app, be sure you're subscribed there. And you know what? This podcast is free. But, you can do us a solid and share it on social media, or make sure your artist friends are listening as well. That would help us immensely. It keeps the bean counters, the powers that be happy seeing the podcast growing. So we would appreciate you just helping us spread the word. In today's episode, we've got the musician's guide to TikTok. We've got an email related to that topic. And we do have a scam email coming up at the bottom of the show. But before all that, Chris, $4.99, still rolling at CD Baby. Distribute an album, a song, an EP, whatever you want. $4.99, you get everything, including the barcode. Screaming deal.
Hell of a deal. No annual subscriptions you get locked into, all the good stuff included. We should, for full transparency, we should say if you're a songwriter and you want publishing administration, that's a little bit more, but that's also a lot lower than it used to be. It's $24.95, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yes. Great deal. Check it out. cdbaby.com. You can go and stock up if you like. You can purchase now and distribute when your tracks or album are ready, and you'll be all set. And it's limited time. You haven't told us what that time frame is. So just go take advantage of that. And we've got some shocking comparisons that we're going to be releasing soon that, these subscription services that say they're so much cheaper at the end of the day can turn out to be thousands more over the course of a couple of years. So be looking for that. It's
Yeah.
pretty insane. All right. Well, Chris, you ready to dive in? The
Do it.
TikTok guide for musicians. So exciting. So
Heck yeah.
exciting. All right.
So, some people might think you're being sarcastic, but I actually am really excited about TikTok.
When have I ever been known to be sarcastic? Actually, I think sarcasm is my love language.
Yeah.
All right, lead us, Chris, because we're working off this guide that will be available at some point. This very nicely written TikTok guide for musicians that should be at some point available at the CD Baby website. But you have put this together, so I'll let you lead us off.
Yeah, so the bulk of this show, we've got a whole bunch of, I think we have 27 tips for how to get the most out of your music on TikTok. But first, we're just gonna do a brief, catch you up on TikTok in case you've been living under a rock and you've never used it, or even for artists who are on there as a consumer of content, but they haven't really dove into creating their own music content. So a few things you should know. TikTok is massive. There's over 1 billion active users. It was the most, or maybe one of the most rapidly growing apps in terms of adoption. And music really does drive the platform in a lot of ways. It's known for, dance challenges, lip sync videos, the type of stuff that was really popping off when TikTok first came to the United States. But now you can do a whole lot more with it. And I think we'll dive into that later. But some of the things that makes TikTok really unique and kind of the first of its short form video kind. Videos are vertical, first of all. They're usually short. They can be a minute, 3 minutes. There's TikTok Live where you can go very long. But by and large, what people go to TikTok for are videos that are like 5 to 60 seconds, I would say. There's really an emphasis on being authentic rather than polished, perfect, highly produced. There's this kind of culture or community of group participation in TikTok, which makes it an amazing app for viral meme stuff. So when something is funny, suddenly 1 million people are inspired to make their own video with that funny audio or that funny visual hook or whatever it is. So it's a perfect app for sort of accelerating memes. The comment section is sometimes as entertaining as the video itself. So, I feel like unlike on we're used to posting on Facebook and YouTube videos and then kind of being horrified to have to go into the comment section. It feels like, a bit of a chore and maintenance work. Sometimes TikTok is the opposite. It's like, whoa, there's people really responding in here, adding their own funny stuff. And it feels a little more friendly to me than the YouTube comment section. For anyone who's never used the app to create content, you can create videos in little iterative bits. So you kind of edit on the fly within the app. So you can create these things that feel very narrative and just, one shot at a time. You can also do things where you visually stitch together 2 parts where the focal point of the video is centered, or at least in the previous frames. You can line stuff up like that. You can pull music into your videos ahead of time so you can shoot things to music. And then kind of to reiterate the thing about it just being a platform for authentic communication, if you have a terrible camera and shitty lighting, it doesn't matter. TikTok, it looks like crap, and that is kind of part of its miraculous feel, I think.
Yeah, and there's a couple things I'd like to highlight. One of them you mentioned people responding or using audio. That is a key driver in TikTok. A lot of what I see is people jumping on popular audio memes and where they're lip syncing or acting out what the meme is saying. That's one thing that's very popular. And music is a part of that, but using those key popular audio clips that are being passed around is sort of a thing that pretty much is unique to TikTok. It happens in Reels, but I think TikTok really is the one that has made that a real driver. Another thing that I'd like to mention, what makes TikTok unique is how the algorithm works. of course, these things, these algorithms are very mysterious. Nobody divulges how their algorithm works. And quite frankly, a lot of people inside the company wouldn't know either. But an algorithm, if you're not familiar, is just it's just the system behind the platform that's trying to push content to you in various ways. And one thing that's very different about TikTok is the algorithm doesn't punish you as a user for posting lots of content. And I had talked to somebody from TikTok, and they're saying, yeah, our platform is always trying to find an audience for every video. And that's why you can, as a user, create an account, create your first or second random video, and actually get a lot of views from it, because it's not necessarily just based on your followers. It's actively trying to find people for your video. Now, that doesn't mean you can just upload an endless stream of garbage, but compare that to what we've become used to on other social platforms, where if you post a lot, and that seems to be the case with almost all of the other ones, maybe except for Twitter. But if you post a ton of content, like video after video after video, they will start suppressing your reach, just because they figure most people don't want to see you posting all that. So that's one thing that's very different about TikTok. And we
Well,
should say that these things could change at any time.
Yeah, well, so that's a perfect lead into two other points I wanted to make. Is when it comes to the algorithm surfacing content, there's this thing called the ForYou page. And it's basically, when you first load up the app, it's all the things TikTok wants you to see or thinks that you want to see. And because that's kind of the main way people engage with new content, it creates a very different experience from Instagram or Facebook, where I feel like most people go on those platforms to basically hear from their friends and see what their friends are sharing, see what vacations their friends are on. And that does happen a little bit on TikTok, but I do feel like TikTok has way more of it, like an old school like TV network. Like, we've got all this stuff and we're going to show it. It's more customized, but you go there to consume stuff mostly by people you don't know. That's, at least I feel like, the average experience for TikTok.
Yeah.
So the algorithm is pairing content with each individual user by surfacing it on this thing called the ForYou page. And when you said that might not last forever, that is a really good point, because when I interviewed Jeremy from the group Winborn at the conference, he really emphasized TikTok's in a growth phase. They're really incentivized to just get mass adoption, make everyone addicted to this platform, serve the right content to the right people. But once they really have to go into full monetization mode, like every platform does, they'll start limiting that reach. So he just said, right now it's this golden opportunity. Let's not miss it as artists, because it'll go the way of Facebook and YouTube and everyone else who we eventually get pissed at because they take away our candy.
All right. Anything else to say on those before we've got a list of like quick tips for success with your music promotion on TikTok? Anything else to sort of set the stage about how this is different? If you haven't jumped in, what might be some first things to understand?
Yeah, we might sort of reiterate these as we go through all our numbered points, but I just want to say, when TikTok launched, and it was a very youth-driven app, and I feel like the perception was, and I even had this perception for a long time, it's for the kids. It's going to be about modern pop music, hip hop, EDM, genres of music that are youth focused. It's going to be about silly humor, or like, it just had that brand to it, or that feel to it. And so I think a lot of people in their, middle age or even older folks just wrote it off as creators. But just like any app that has like stickiness to it and is fun to use, remember, like, Facebook started with all college kids, and now it's known as like, oh, that's the old people app. Like,
That's true.
TikTok is getting tons of users of all age groups, all
Yes.
interests, all nationalities, all nations, because it's so fun and it's so effective at getting the content that you want to see in front of you. So that's just my word of encouragement for, if you're someone who's said, that's not for me, I'll never find my audience there. You can, especially if you have a niche sound that you might assume has no audience there. Your niche might actually help define how your content reaches your exact audience because of how the algorithm works. So give it a try, stick with it for, 3 to 6 months and see how it goes.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the evolution of where it came from, you mentioned it very briefly, but there was an app called Musical.ly. It was very much like a karaoke type app. And that's probably oversimplifying, but then they took the bones of that and turned it into TikTok. And
Yeah.
so from the beginning, it was always built with the idea of music and music being a key part of the experience. So with that said, let's dive into some of
Yeah.
our tips. We've got quite a few. We're going to move through them. I should also mention that we have more in-depth episodes about TikTok. We've got some artists lined up that we're going to interview that have had massive success on TikTok. We've got some strategies with our social person Rachel here at CD Baby that she's pretty active on TikTok. So we've got multiple episodes that will be coming out over the next couple months that will really highlight some of the opportunity here and options for you as an artist. So this one we're just going to kind of give a bunch of tips, and there'll be some detail, but we've got some more like deep dives coming up just to make you aware.
Yeah, and I think you and I could just run through maybe 5 at a time each and then sort of backtrack if the other person has anything to say. My first thing is just very obvious. Get your music on TikTok. If you want your songs to go places on that app, whether you're creating the videos or you expect a viral trend to kick off from one of your songs, your music has to be there. So
yeah,
no worries. CD Baby sends your music to TikTok, but just make sure it's in distribution for that. Follow other musicians, and I would say just follow other creators on TikTok in general. Like before you start jumping in and making a bunch of content, really get a feel for the culture of the app, see what sorts of things are inspiring you. And then also do follow some music specific accounts just to see how artists sort of thread the needle between promoting their music and being a personality versus like being a part of a community. Early on, I actually really liked the Jonas Brothers and Lizzo on TikTok. Those 2 people I followed. I thought they did a really good job. Third thing is keep your content light. This isn't a totally, it's not a rule. There are a lot of deep emotional content pieces that can do well on TikTok, but by and large, it's a place people go to have fun. So jokes, pranks, things like that tend to do well. Don't stress about being perfect. I can't stress this point enough. Like your quirkiness, your awkwardness, your strange little obsessions, like those might be the thing that make you interesting on TikTok. So just hit record, try to make some stuff, get silly, be you, be weird. It's fine. And then another point we've been making lately a lot when we talk about video is you have to capture people's eyes instantly. If you don't, they're just going to scroll right past you, particularly on this app where the For You page is a bunch of people generally that you don't really know, or you're not there specifically for any particular creator. So if the content in front of them is boring, they'll move right past it. So, whatever that is, it could be shocking them. It could be a direct emotional appeal, whatever it is, get their attention immediately.
Yeah. And you already mentioned that TikTok skews young, but it's trending otherwise. Just like you said, I think your example of Facebook was a good one. I remember when Facebook came out, it was all college people because that's where it started, but then it became sort of a utility for all ages. And now people tend to look at it. That's where the old people hang out.
This is the boomer platform. Yeah.
Yes. So every platform tends to go through that type of phase. Early adopters tend to be younger, and then as it permeates through culture, it sort of levels out. It's not necessarily about your song, but about musical moments. And I think that's one thing with some of the artists that we got on tap to interview. You will hear from them when things started really working for them. It became less about promoting a whole song, but and understanding a quick musical moment, whether that's their song or tapping into another song that's popular and trending on TikTok. And especially like the hook. I think when TikTok launched, we had things like Vine in the past, which was 6-second videos, and TikTok was 15-second videos. I think what they did was perfect the short form video and having people understand how they could make maximum impact with little amount of time. And then thinking visual, becoming a meme or joining in on a visual meme. That's also very popular on the platform. Again, they're quick, short videos. I think, they're like quick hits. You're not there to sit there and just talk in front of the mic for 3, 4, 5 minutes, even though they do. I think 3 minutes is now how long you can, or did they extend it even further, Chris? Is it?
I don't even know.
I know
3
it's at
minutes is the last. That's the last figure I put in my brain because I thought beyond that, what the hell is the point of TikTok? Just put it on YouTube.
I'm curious to see how that changes the platform, because I've been on TikTok and then seen how like people that are using the full 3 minutes tend to be less interesting videos because the platform is more about like just quick hooks, like we just said. Yeah, there's lots of things. If you use the platform and you're scrolling through and following people, you'll see people using lots of different visuals, whether it's in the video or stuff on screen that really drive the engagement. Dancing is always something that seems to be a trend that works. Various dances and such. There's lots of that on TikTok, and for a while it seemed like that's all there was. At least that's all I would see. But there are lots of trends with that will drive engagement and seem to drive shares and the algorithm showing it to other people. The next tip, beware and embrace the shtick. TikTok does love when creators dial in a particular kind of video content, whether you call it a gimmick or a dependable voice or idea. That's up to you. But there's if you make something that does go viral, there's a compelling argument to follow it up with a lot of similar content. And that's one thing that I mentioned earlier in the episode, that I had talked to someone from TikTok and said a lot of things about the algorithm and how it works differently. This is another thing where TikTok, you can try a lot of stuff. If it doesn't work, it doesn't impact you negatively. At least that's what they said at the time, compared to like other platforms. When you have low performing content, your account seems to be looked at as a lower performer. So it kind of becomes counterintuitive to try and test new things because you can be worried that that'll impact you negatively.
Yeah, well, I know in terms of having a shtick, part of the reward algorithmically is because they like when someone discovers your content, goes to your profile, and then consumes a bunch of similar content. And they're more likely to go and binge a bunch of stuff if it is in keeping with what initially like won their attention. So that's part of the benefit of it. We had Gil on a few months ago, did MIDI art with his synthesizers, and he recognizes it as a shtick or as a whatever, but he's inspired to do it. He loves doing those. So in that case, it's worth his time. I do also feel like we have heard from a lot of artists who find a shtick and then regret it because they're like, wait, now I'm just doing this one thing. Anytime I try something else, no one cares. And this one thing has very little or nothing to do with my music. So that's the part of like bewaring the shtick, I think, is worth remembering. And then just one quick point about, you said it's not about the whole song, it's about a musical moment, and think visually. I just find this very exciting and freeing for artists who maybe you have a 4-minute song with a ton of lyrics, but just 5 seconds of your song's lyrics, if you took it out of context, could be represented visually in a completely different way that is very catchy. So, go through and listen to your catalog again with like fresh ears, basically, and don't assume you have to tell the whole story, the whole song.
Yes.
Actually, that goes into the point I wanted to make, which is don't ignore your back catalog, because, we always say even your oldest songs are new to someone, and with a billion users, your oldest songs will be new to almost everyone on TikTok. So if there's a great visual hook or snippet you can find from an older tune that you think has viral potential, share that. Speaking to the culture of TikTok, remember, it is not about you. It's about them, the audience. And I don't know if I can think of a platform that does that any more than TikTok. Like, if you think you're going to show up and have everyone worship your genius, like, this isn't the place for you. So try to, again, think about community engagement and create things that people will take into their own lives and make their own content from. You can use TikTok as much or as little as you want. Like Kevin was saying, you're not penalized for putting out a bunch of stuff and having some of it fail. You're also not really penalized that much for going away for weeks or months at a time. I'm sure there is some algorithmic thing that's tracking that, and maybe there's a little bit of a penalty for it. But Jeremy from Winborn said he took a huge break, came back, didn't notice any negative consequences for it, which I think is good for our mental health to not feel locked into being content creators. You should definitely explore TikTok's built-in collaboration tools. You can do things called duets, which is basically someone else has created a video. You get to put that on kind of one side of the frame and then add your own thing. So you could sing a harmony. You could add a trumpet solo. Someone could do a trick and you could do a trick in response. Whatever it is, you respond to their videos. There's also like, hashtag challenges and dance contests and all that kind of stuff, lip sync contests. Any of that stuff that you feel inspired to do, try it out because it's a way to reach way beyond your own audience.
Yeah.
And then don't forget hashtags. I'd say don't get obsessed with them either. Like 1 or 2 appropriate hashtags can be great. They don't give you that much space for captions anyways. So I think it would be better to use the caption space to talk about the content and who the audience is.
Yeah. Yeah. The feature you mentioned, duets, I think is one that I've seen a lot of people do some cool stuff and get creative and involve other artists and a way to tap into other audiences. That's definitely something to talk about or check out. And we will, like I said, in future episodes, we will do more of a deep dive on some of these features and hashtags. One thing that with TikTok hashtags, I have not figured out how how they work compared to like what we've experienced on other platforms. It seems to be slightly different. I don't know. A lot of the hashtags I see people using aren't necessarily related directly to what's in the content a lot of times. So that one I'm still trying to figure out like what the best strategy is for those.
As a side note, if we go to Instagram for a second, do you get any benefit from hashtags anymore? Every
Not
time I use
anymore.
one, I
Nope.
just get all these DMs being like, "Hey, you should follow them." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah, I get with the second I use anything related to the like music business, music promotion, anything, I get all these, hey, we'll help you promote your music. We'll help you. Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing like I mean, that might be part of like my lack of understanding of hashtags on TikTok is because I've seen it's clear, absolutely clear that Instagram does not put as much weight on hashtags anymore because there were some hashtags I'd use like a guitar player or like guitar player or guitar or whatever, where if I use those hashtags, it was very obvious that if my content was relevant to that hashtag, I got an enormous amount of extra exposure where now it doesn't seem like that impacts it at all.
now you just get a bunch of scam emails."
Yeah, which is perfect for our scam segment. All right, moving on. You want to treat TikTok like a community. Follow other users. Take advantage of the algorithm's power to connect with artists that get served up to you. If you like their music, there's a good chance they'll like yours. A lot of these collaboration tools and things that are built in help drive that community. I think that's one thing that's very different about this platform in that I feel like the community vibe is a key element of success. And we'll talk about that more in some of the things that strategies that people are using that seem to be really working, taking that into account. You can share TikTok videos on other platforms. TikTok makes it super easy. With a couple taps, your TikTok video can be on Instagram stories and other places. But one thing to note, I've heard, but it doesn't seem to have truly have had an impact. I heard that, because TikTok puts a little watermark on it with their logo. I've heard that Instagram Reels started suppressing some of the content that has those TikTok watermarks. But when I open up Reels, half the stuff I see has those TikTok watermarks on it. So I'm not sure how true that is, or if they just threw in the towel and figured we better just allow it and ride the wave and be thankful people still want to use it.
I noticed the exact same thing. And also there are apps you can use to remove the TikTok watermark if you want to just pull the video off TikTok and put it on Reels as sort of native content.
Yeah. Yeah. And you might test that. So that's one thing. TikTok, like Krista said, makes it easy to save the video. And there's some things that you can do to remove the watermark. So if you are using Reels a lot, you might test and see if there's any difference. And if you're an artist that has tested that and found a difference, let us know. Moving on, exaggerate. TikTok is a platform that's larger than life, in your face content, grabs attention and keeps viewers captivated. So yeah, think about that kind of approach and you'll see it on the platform. There's lots of options, but that doesn't mean that's the only way to have success. I think that was what was so great about your friend Jeremy in Winborn, that what he was doing wasn't like this super silly thing. It was content that I think a lot of people felt wouldn't find an audience on TikTok, but he has. But it's worth just following a lot of different artists to see what's working. But it does tend to be, again, 15 seconds, you got to grab people's attention. This isn't a place where you sit down and have an hour-long conversation about, in-depth topics. The next one, collaborate with other artists. We mentioned duets, and that's a thing where you can play off of someone else's video. You can start something and ask people to contribute on top of it. I've seen people write or post like a beat with some chord changes on it and ask people to play a guitar solo over. I've seen all sorts of things, and that's just a fun way to collaborate. There is if you're interested in this, you do need to make sure that your settings are set so they allow duets, because you can have your settings so that can't happen to your video. So you want to make sure that you do have that setting turned on. The next one, go hyper local. Once you start using the app for a while, you might notice that content related to your region populates your feed, and TikTok loves localized content. So don't think that you can't really focus in on a narrow subject or location and feel like you're limiting your opportunity. Sometimes that might increase your opportunity. So lots of options there.
Yeah, I just had two quick thoughts on those points, both related to my conversation with Winborn. But they actually did a thing where they had this video that did extremely well on TikTok, and they decided they would post it again a bunch of times, but each time with a different city on screen, like just the caption saying like, "Hey, Des Moines, we're coming to your town," or whatever. And they did that for every city on their tour, and they just relied on TikTok, their algorithm, to know the text was on screen and to serve it to the right people. And it was almost a way of doing, well, it was a way they did tour promotion by leaning into that sort of hyper localized content, which I thought was cool. And then when you're talking about collaborating with artists, that can be very intentional. Like you could make a beat or a bass riff or whatever, a beatbox, and say, "Hey, duet this, add a verse," whatever it is, and do an invite for people to add to your stuff. But with Winborn, they did this thing. They found this video clip of Michael Bublé and Stephen Colbert singing a sea shanty, and they just duetted with it, adding 4-part vocal harmony behind it. So that is like totally impromptu, jumping in on something, and they got a ton of mileage out of that too. So collaboration can be very, intentional or just kind of random.
Yeah,
it's cool. I think some of my last points I wanted to make is that don't worry too much about getting verified on TikTok. I feel like a lot of artists are like, I need the check mark. I need whatever features might open up once I'm like a real TikTok artist. Well, on TikTok's site, you can see or you can see sort of a vague explanation of what they're looking for before they verify someone. But I think the most important advice is just be active on TikTok, do cool stuff. Once you get enough attention, like those things will unlock. Don't try to put the cart before the horse. Related back to something else we said, be prolific if you want and go away if you want. I don't think we need to talk too much about that, but I just like that this app kind of just supports us where we're at in terms of our energy level for social. Promote your music from multiple angles. You could, take one song and do a live version for 15 seconds. You could talk about the recording. You could have the song in the background while you talk about literally anything else. There's just so many ways to attack music promotion with this app. And again, because you're not penalized for putting out just a ton of stuff, you might as well just try a bunch of stuff. And this is great about TikTok. By and large, your video's success is not dependent on your prior video's engagement. So it is possible for you to post 30 videos in a row that all fail. They don't get any attention. No one cares. And then you just do one that for whatever reason just works. And TikTok sends it to the right people. It goes smashing viral. And that's really great, because I think a lot of other platforms expect you to, sort of incrementally or exponentially grow things. Whereas every piece of content is being judged on its own merits to some extent, at least. You're going to want to focus on things like watch time, repeat views, and driving likes, comments, shares, and follows, because those are all the things TikTok sees as, hey, people like this enough to stay on our app, which is the whole point of having an app in the first place. And so if those are the things that keep people on the app, you want to do whatever you can do to drive repeat views and get them to watch again and again. Some tricks to doing that is creating a sense of mystery or suspense like Gil would do. He talked about with his MIDI art. You got to wait till the end of the video to see A, if he can pull it off, and B, what does the full picture look like once the MIDI art is complete. So you want to have a payoff. Another thing you could do that Jeremy from Winborn mentions a lot is put a lot of text on screen. Could be lyrics, could be stories about the songs, just too much information. So you're overloaded. You have to watch again if you want to consume it all, or you have to watch 3 times to consume it all. Lots of crazy activity on screen, seamless loops where we talked about this in our last episode, but like, wait, did that just repeat? I didn't see where the break was.
I think that was the worst thing about them making it 3 minutes, because there's times where I've realized, oh, I've been watching a 15-second video for like 2 minutes now, thinking it's the same, it's still going.
Oh, I'm an idiot.
I'm an idiot. I have those realizations all the time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think one thing, that you're talking about, video success is not dependent on your prior engagement. That was one thing that when I was talking to that person from TikTok that really seemed to be made clear, in that I think fundamentally one thing that's different about TikTok is that it's looking at video content that lands on its app because people make it, and going, who is the audience for this? And I think that's why you mentioned the, hey, Des Moines. Well, it's like, oh, people in Des Moines. Do we have, we've got people in Des Moines. Let's throw this video in there. And it can find its place way outside your followers or people that might have just normally been, how other algorithms at social networks work, where I feel like all the other ones have been based on, oh, you go build an audience and then we'll decide if it's worthy for them to see it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why on things like Instagram, people have started seeing diminishing returns, because it's like, I built this audience and now you just won't show it to any of them. They've said they want to see my content. What gives? Where I feel like TikTok is kind of the opposite, where it knows you have an audience and it will show them your content in your feed, but the For You page is really where a lot of this stuff lands. Like, it'll be random stuff, things that it thinks you may like based on a lot of different things, a lot of different data points. So it can be pretty powerful. All right, next up, invite conversation. This is a feature I've been seeing people use a lot lately, like really interacting with the comment section. And there's features that allow you to take a comment and put it on screen and interact with the comment, which just drives more engagement. And I think that's one thing that people really like on TikTok. We've talked about the community vibe. It feels like it's more of an interactive experience, especially with a lot of artists on the independent level. When you look at like bigger artists, it can feel a little bit more corporate and more like the traditional interaction from an artist that feels like someone else is doing it. But for a lot of independent artists, they're seeing success. This is one of those things that is really driving engagement, and I've seen it a lot. And then pin your favorite videos. The ones that have performed well, pin them to the top of your profile, because oftentimes, because of the way it works, someone gets one of your videos featured and they go, oh, I haven't seen this before. Who is this? And they click on your profile, and it's those featured videos, or the ones that have been performing well, are right up top and are a great point for them to dive into more of your content.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add here, when you talked about the inviting conversation, it reminded me that TikTok is a place for educational content, which I think we haven't really made clear or that explicit. People love being on TikTok and being entertained. It has to be entertaining, but learning stuff. So the history of a genre, or let's say you're singing some French song and you're putting the translation of the lyrics, or if you're doing something more like, hey, here's my guitar pedal rig rundown. It could be anything. Like, so educating people can be fun, but it can also invite conversation. And the idea I had would be like, here's why the best song by Queen is Don't Stop Me Now. Like, and then you could say like, prove me wrong, or like, do you agree, or something? And then you do a quick thing like, it's got this cool vocal note, it's got this cool guitar, whatever. The content's quick and engaging. And then at the end, it's like, now tell me, like, do you agree? What's your favorite Queen song? And suddenly your comment section is full of people weighing in. So I think that happens to a much larger degree on TikTok than on other platforms.
Yeah, I think it's very important that you go follow a whole lot of different type of accounts. Think of anything imaginable that you like to talk about or are interested in, even beyond music, because the point of that is you'll see the different kind of content that people are making that is working. It's a little harder on TikTok. It's not like YouTube, where YouTube works like a search engine. You can go to YouTube and you can type in something you're interested in and find it. TikTok's a little different in that way, but I think following a lot of accounts by things that are different, you'll see, okay, if I want to make a piece of, like you're saying, educational content, these are the people that are doing things that are working. So maybe I should try that, and I can and learn some things about how they're doing it and port it over to my experience as an artist. Because the one thing that, I think is frustrating on all social networks, it's like you search one topic a couple times and then that algorithm just thinks the only thing you want to see is this. It was funny because randomly, this was like a month ago, it was right before we went to the conference. Everything I was seeing on Reels was sharks. I'm like,
Me too.
why on earth does Reels think I want to see sharks all the time now? And it was like, did I do something? And then I saw somebody post like,
I posted
why?
about it.
Oh, okay. You posted
I said
something
you
about
watch
it.
one shark reel and suddenly Instagram thinks you only want to see sharks. They're right.
Yeah. And I'm like, that happens to me on YouTube as well. It's like I click on one video and suddenly my whole feed is that. I'm like, just because I was interested in that one video doesn't mean I'm all sharks all the time.
I think we joked about this before too, but it's like, I already fixed my washer machine. I don't need more tutorials on fixing it.
Yeah.
I fixed it already.
Yeah,
Show me sharks.
I had a problem with my car a couple weeks ago where the window got stuck down, and I searched how to fix it, and I'm like, now I'm gonna get endless tutorials about how to fix this dang window, and I'm like, I already fixed it. I don't need it anymore. So that can happen, but I think the idea of like with TikTok is there's a lot of different types of content that's working and it's really evolving fast. So following a lot of different things and getting curious, because you mentioned education. What are colleges doing? Is what they're doing working? What are other companies doing? Is it working? What are other artists doing? What are other people that are creative that are promoting other types of content or experiences doing? And really getting a good sense of that so you can try lots of things, because it is easy with these algorithms to just start seeing one very singular type of content and think that's the only thing that's happening on this platform, like in that ForYou page or wherever you're seeing stuff that's generated by the algorithm. So I think that's key.
Yeah, one last comment. You said that YouTube is a search engine, and clearly, it was built alongside Google's search tools, and it is the second most popular search tool now. But I have heard some shocking statistics about young people using TikTok as their primary search tool. So they are going there to learn stuff.
Yeah. Yes, they are. It's just not set up like a search engine function like YouTube, where YouTube is clearly intended that you go there and they'll throw some videos up, especially if you have a new account. They'll throw up like things that are trending until they start understanding the things you like. But people think of YouTube as sort of that. It starts by me entering in some info about something I want to see.
Yeah.
Where this is very, very different experience. And it can take a bit to get used to it. So I think that brings us to the end of our musician's guide to TikTok. It was a big overview, and this platform's evolving fast. And so things could change, but we are going to do some deep dives, like I mentioned, coming up on some specific strategies, some things that are working. We're going to talk to some artists that have done some cool stuff and that has really exploded their career. If you heard our last episode, we talk a little bit about it at the end and threw out a lot of tips. And that was, or not our last episode. It was 2 episodes ago, Power Up Your Music Videos. There's some good tips in there as well, but we're going to go even deeper specifically on TikTok coming up over the course of the next handful of episodes with some other things sprinkled in. If you have something to share, a tip, some success, or some frustration, or anything related to TikTok, feel free to call our listener line 360-524-2209 or email us at podcast@cdbabypodcast.com. Share your stories, and so we can all learn. It's evolving fast. If something's worked, I know in the past we've talked to artists that are like, yeah, I did this thing, but then I felt like I was on a hamster wheel to do that thing that was unrelated to my music. If you're an artist and figuring out, oh, this is how I've actually harnessed the power of TikTok to drive my music forward, we want to know about it, because often with a lot of these social networks, you can build an audience and feel like this audience loves when I do pranks or or dances, but it doesn't seem to really power my music career. And is this just a waste of time? So if you're doing something that's like, I've really tapped into making this grow my whole thing, we want to hear about it. So again, 360-524-2209. Email us at podcast@cdbabypodcast.com. So yeah, share your stories. And anything else we need to say before we close it out?
Not that I can think of. Distribution's $4.99 at CD Baby. What a deal.
That's right. Limited time. Jump in on it as soon as you can. We don't know how long it's going to last, but check that out. And lastly, I'd say if you're not subscribed to the DIY Musician newsletter, you should just head on over to our blog, DIYmusician.com. And there's some places there where you can sign up, because we've got events and places where we're showing up all over the world coming up, and we're putting that info in that newsletter. I'm going to be in London doing an event there in October, and we've got things happening and things in the new year that's going to be where we're going to be showing up, and we'd love to see you. So
there's some things very quickly coming up in Atlanta and Portland, Oregon, right?
Yes. Hopefully this episode will go live. This episode won't go live before the Atlanta one, but October 3rd, this is 2022, October 3rd, we'll be doing an event in Portland, Oregon with Music Biz. And so if you're in the area and you hear this, check it out. But with that said, Chris, I think that's going to bring us to the end.
All right. See you next week.
All right. We'll catch you later.